in Alverno studio, we do various works in ceramics. We do some of them are plastic or ceramic tiles, and some of them are large murals that we do. Some of them are very large. We cover a whole wall with some of our murals. And those murals are commissioned by various places. Most of the work that we do are for churches or libraries or schools, something in that line. And what happens is that when we receive a commission from someone, we usually go to the location where the mural will be, and then we surmise what the topic should be. Very often they leave the selection of the topic to us, but after we talk to the people, we find out exactly what they're thinking, and then we make a model of it. And I do that in watercolor in quite a bit of detail, so they know exactly what it's going to be like. And then we enlarge the piece to the exact size, and then make a copy of it in kind of a parchment tracing paper, and that's applied to the clay. And then we cut the clay apart in pieces, and what I usually do is go according to the design rather than in squares. A lot of times when ceramic murals are done, they're done in squares, about 6-inch squares. We don't do that. We follow the pattern, and we do a lot of curving lines in our work. So there's a lot of motion, a lot of action in the design. Then after we cut the pieces out of the clay, which we've rolled out on a slab of clay, and then we model the pieces. And it's usually in low relief that we model them. And low relief is like sometimes it's called bas relief, and that's sort of like a coin. It's very slight relief. And then from there on, we cut the pieces apart and reassemble them, put numbers on the back so that we know exactly where the puzzle pieces will be going. Again, we didn't always do that. We learned the hard way that we need to put the numbers in the back of each piece. So we do that on the pattern and then on each of the pieces on the back. And you can even see how we do that in here. I have a number on the back, and then I gouge out some places, and that's so that the adhesive can get in between this and makes it very permanent when it's on the wall. These pieces have to be put on some place that's very sturdy, because as you see, the pieces are quite heavy themselves. And after we model the pieces, as this one is, this is just in line. Sometimes the modeling is a little deeper, more like this, where we have the modeling in flowers in this case, and they're going to be poppies. There's a whole field of poppies, and that's what the modeling is a little more detailed on this piece. So, but the architectural pieces, they usually show up better if you just put them in lines this way. Well, then after we model everything and the pieces are finished in clay, then we fire each of the pieces. We put weights on them first of all to be sure that there is no warpage of any kind. Then we fire the pieces, and they go up to maybe about 2,000 degrees. Then when we do the second firing, after we glaze the piece, after we fired the first time, we put the pieces together again on the pattern according to the numbers, and then we glaze the pieces, and that's how we use a lot of volunteers for that. They can do a lot of the glazing. And so after the pieces are glazed, then they're refired again, and this time at a higher temperature. That's about 2,300 degrees. So then after those pieces are assembled, if nothing happens, we're finished with the mural. We put it together, and then we box it usually and transport it to wherever it's going to be. We usually are there when they are putting the mural up, but we don't install it ourselves. We have either some workers that they have at the place that's commissioned it, or we have a gentleman that works with us all the time. And so if they don't have anybody, we suggest him. And then so we go and lay out the mural for him, and we're there while he's assembling it. And then after that, the mural is finished.
All that we do does seek and inspire beauty, truth, and goodness, which is the essence of Franciscan spirituality and art.
I'm making a mold, and what I'm doing right now is sealing the inside so the plaster doesn't spill out. but this is the original design, and that will go inside the mold. And then when you put plaster over it, and that makes an impression, and then we have a permanent mold so that we can reproduce it. All of this is so much fun, and it's very diverse. You know, we're always doing something different, whether it's making a mold, painting, glazing, or cutting out pieces for a mural. It's just very, very diverse.
This is the St. Francis and the bird with the arch. And we have to put 4 coats of glaze on it. And then this is a clear sealer around the edge that makes it shiny.
This part of the studio was about in 2000, but it was before that. It was in the 80s, 1980 something. I think it's 83 that we were working on, 1983, when we did the first ones, the first murals. And those were done on the Franciscan Center. And the very first one we did was 40 feet high. And we had no idea what we were doing sometimes, you know. Sister Helen Schmura, she's in heaven now, but she was the technical advisor. She had the degree in ceramics, and so she was the technical advisor for all of that. And Sister Agneta Gansel worked with us too. Sister Helen and Sister Agneta and I worked on those murals on the Franciscan Center. And the men were worried about it because they knew we were going to cover a whole wall. And so they were very concerned about that. But it was the bricklayers who installed the first murals there. And the 40-foot high one is like an ascended Christ or a glorified Christ. And all around the building, we have women saints, and I think different quotations that we have, and Francis is represented very many times. Well, that was the beginning. And after that, we've done so many all over. We've been in. We have pieces in Texas. We have pieces in New York. We have pieces in Kentucky. So there are several different places that we have been commissioned, and we think that this is what God wants us to do because we never solicit anything. We just, if by hearsay often, somebody will see the mural and say that they might need something like that. And so we keep getting these commissions, keep coming in. And we've been busy doing this ever since the Franciscan Center went up. The very first ones that were off campus was for the St. Elias Orthodox Church right here in Sylvania. And they had icons on the outside of their church that were painted, but they were peeling. And so they saw that ours were much more permanent, and so they asked if we would be able to do that. And so that was our first commission off campus. And then after that, one led to another. Somebody in Monroe saw a picture of the ones that we did for us in Sylvania, and so they commissioned something for us too, and then it has been going on like that ever since. We would like to have any of our volunteers or the sisters that work with me, I like to have them pause occasionally and what we call our sacred pause. We call it a sacred pause because we relate to each other during that time. When we're busy working, we're concerned with what we're doing and we're work individually. But this time it's really time for tea and cookies, but we call it our sacred pause because we learn about each other that way. We discuss all kinds of problems. We solve the problems of the world right at our little round table. And we call it a sacred pause for that reason. Because it gives us a chance to really find out what the sisters are thinking, our volunteers are thinking. Sometimes it makes us really feel a part of the volunteers' families. We were here when some of them became grandmothers for the first time, and that was always very exciting for us, and we enjoy that so much when that special time. It's usually about 3 o'clock, so if you come around the studio at about 3 o'clock, you can join us for our sacred pause.